Okay, so it is 7:30. We will make a start, everyone. Welcome to our annual parish meeting for 2021. I'm sorry it has to be Zoom, but obviously we are compelled to do that. This is the first time the parish council has met since Prince Philip, the Duke of Edinburgh, died, and so I think it is right if we start with a minute's silence in memory of him. So if we could do that to begin with, I hope everyone's agreeable to that. So we'll do that now.
You want to put the heating on, have you? Have you put the heating on? Oh, I didn't know you would.
Right, thank you, everyone. Right, so we'll move on to item 2 on the agenda, which is apologies for absence. I don't know if we've got any. Ian, have we got any apologies?
No.
No. Okay. Moving on to item 3, the approval of minutes of the last annual meeting held on the 3rd of April 2019. We've all had a copy. Can they be signed as a true record?
It is, Chair.
Right. Have we got a proposal?
Yes, I've just proposed it.
Thank you, Eddie. Gabriel, seconder. Is there a seconder for that?
Yeah, I'll second.
Yeah, Ken, thank you.
Yes.
So proposal and seconder. Is there anybody voting against them? No. Okay. We'll take that as they are accepted. Item 4, matters arising from the minutes. Have we got any matters arising? I know it's a long time ago. Item 5, report on local policing matters. Ian, did we get a report?
We've got Beth with us.
Hello, everyone.
Oh, hello, sorry. Would you like to give your report?
Yes, of course. Good evening. Obviously, this is the first time I've been in one of these meetings. I'm the new neighbourhood beat manager for the area. I took over from Adam back in January. And there's also a new sergeant. I'm not too sure if you're aware of that, Sergeant Roy Hutter. He's covering the whole area of East Devon now. And we've also got a new inspector, which is John Gates. But sadly, he'll be retiring the end of May. So we will have another new inspector covering the area soon. And we've still got Mike McGawley, our PCSO. I'm sure everyone will see him out and about. And another new kind of few members of the team. Well, not new, but they are PCSO England and PC Ebden, who are from the Honiton neighbourhood team and Axminster neighbourhood team, and they're taking on the new kind of rural engagement. So they're going to be doing a lot of work around livestock worrying, dog offences. Darren's been putting some posters up out and about in Colleton over the weekend, so you may have seen him. And we have a lot more involvement from our special constables now. So they come out, they're helping us with a lot of speed checks and a lot of visibility, proactive policing, so that's been great. Unfortunately, I can't share with you any of our year-end figures as they've been embargoed for external release until the Office of National Statistics release them on the 13th of May. So if you would like a copy of those after the 13th of May, I'm happy to email them across to everybody. And what I can say is that there has been a decrease in crime in Colleton, which is good. The only areas where we've seen an increase in crime is drug possession and burglary. Burglary, that's only one extra report, so that's not too worrying. And our drug possession is only up due to warrants that we've had carried out in the Colleton area. And there has been a lot more proactive policing led by Sergeant Hutter. One thing we have noticed, not so much in Colleton, but in the wider East Devon area, is an increase in the theft of old tractors. So if that's something that can be fed out into your community for everyone to be vigilant, to be reporting any suspicious behaviour or individuals to us, that'd be greatly appreciated. We're also seeing an increase in catalytic converters. That's again not something that's affected Colleton recently, but it is increasing in the East Devon area. So we would ask communities to be vigilant to that, reporting any behaviour to us, no matter how little it may seem. It will help us build up a bigger picture. And I think that goes to all of our community intelligence. We're not getting a lot of community intelligence anymore. So if anybody has any concerns, any worrying behaviour, then we really encourage people to report that to us. And our priorities will be shaped around the information and reports we get. So if there is an area of concern, we can focus our priorities towards that, but we just need to know what it is. And I think that is all from me at this time.
Thank you very much for that. Will you be able to take questions if there are any questions?
Yes, of course. I'll try my best to answer them.
Thank you. Right, Eddie.
Yes, Beth, welcome to this evening. For your information, I am the Colleton Parish Council Police Advocate.
Ah, perfect. Hello.
Okay, and participated obviously in a number of the OPCC meetings.
Yeah.
There's a number of individuals on the screen tonight who are from the Community Speed Watch, which obviously undertook a meeting, I think, on the 16th. Can you just answer to me, one of the largest complaints that we have in Colliford and Colleton is about traffic speeding. You mentioned that obviously that it's being attended to. Can you tell me how? So
myself and Mike are going to be going out and carrying speed checks. We're going to try and be doing that weekly, and obviously Colleton and Colliford is the one that we're most kind of aware of, as well as Seaton Downhill. So we'll be coming out there to do speed checks. A few weeks ago, maybe even be last month now, I requested the mobile camera safety vans, so the speed camera vans, to come out to the area. They came out, they've issued tickets, and that's something that we can look at again to kind of, I think if people aren't expecting the van and then they see it, hopefully people know if it's going to be there, they'll be a bit more cautious with their speed. I would like to get involved with community speed watch groups once they're set up and running again. And we will also be using our special constabulary. They will come out and carry out speed enforcement operations along there. And myself and Mike are going to try and be a bit more visible and park up along those roads and issue tickets to people committing offences.
Yeah.
I'm very pleased to hear that, Beth. But as I said, to be perfectly honest with you, when you walk outside of my house, which is on the 3052, then the speeding is just unbelievable.
I've just turned them off.
Oh, I know.
Okay, thank you, Eddie. Steve, if you want.
If you're muted.
You're muted, Steve.
Sorry.
You're still muted, Steve.
Am I now?
No, you're right now.
Good evening. Sorry about that. Whilst we're on vehicles,
Yeah.
the last year, it is quite noticeable. I live on the Collie Road, quite close to the road. The amount of very noisy exhaust systems.
Yes.
I know there's this peppercorn thing that pop, 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 but some of them I don't believe have got any exhaust on.
Right. Okay.
You know, so they're so loud, but they don't see. No one seems to do anything.
Do you have any, obviously not over here, but any registrations that you can pass to me? Then I'll be happy to take a look at them.
I haven't, but I will certainly try and. Trouble is, for the Collie Road, they're gone so
within
quickly
seconds.
That you don't get a chance. And that's another area of speeding. They come from the 40 into the 30, and by the time they got into Colleton, they might be just about doing 40.
Yeah. No, that's something again I'm happy to look at. To be honest, I've taken over Seaton and I've been it's been quite a hectic few months, but now I'm kind of finding my pace here. If there are any vehicles of concern, if you can get registrations or a particular time of day that they're in that area, then I'm happy to come out and take a look. And I can always ask for assistance from our traffic colleagues who can look at the exhaust and things like that, and any modifications.
Thank you.
Okay. Are there any other questions?
Just one, Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yes.
Beth, how can we contact you, please?
How can you contact me?
Yeah, the Community Speed Watch would like to touch base with you. So how can we do that?
My email address, I don't know if Ian can pass that on to everybody, but I'm happy my email address can be passed out to everybody, or if you're ready to jot it down, I can quickly pass it to you now.
I'll ask Ian rather than having it on a public
Perfect.
forum.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions? Good. Okay, well, thank you very much, Beth, for coming.
Perfect, thank you. Thank you,
It's
everyone.
nice to see you.
Bye.
Okay, we'll move on to item 6, which is the parish council reports. And the first one on is myself as chairman. So I'll give my report. Yeah, I'll take my glasses off. Yeah, the last year has been a year like no other because of the coronavirus. As we all know, this has meant all meetings and social gatherings have had to be cancelled. So all parish council meetings, apart from the parish inspection in July, have had to be done by Zoom. However, despite all of this, the parish council has had a busy year, meeting twice a month, as well as looking into site inspections and councillors attending other Zoom meetings on behalf of the parish council. There are two major issues for the parish council. Firstly, the development at the Ceramtech site. The detailed plans will be coming before us in the coming year, and we need to get the best for Colleton as regards work units and affordable housing. And secondly, the Colleton neighbourhood plan, which has now gone forward to East Devon for its Regulation 16 review. If it passes this, it will then go to the inspector, and then finally it will come back to the parish for a referendum. If we get this in place, it will give the parish council a lot more control of planning development in the future. For the plan to have got this far, it has taken a great deal of hard work, particularly by the steering committee, who have done all the groundwork. And I'd like to thank the members of the steering group, and particularly their chairwoman, Caroline Collier, for all the hard work they've done. Unfortunately, during the last year, we have lost 3 councillors. Rodney Turner and Andrew Jarman were disqualified for not attending meetings for 6 months. It's a decision that I find unbelievable given the circumstances. The third councillor was Ray Watts, who's decided to retire. And I'd like to thank him for his contributions during his time as a councillor. As has been advertised, there will be by-elections on the 6th of May, and I'd like to wish good luck to all the candidates. Finally, I'd like to thank the remaining councillors for their hard work during the year, and particularly the 2 parish clerks, Sasha and her husband Ian, who was filled in during Sasha's maternity leave. And this is a first for Colleton. They've both done a very good job in keeping us going in difficult circumstances. So that's my report. Okay, so we'll move on then to the Finance Committee report, and Joy.
Finance Committee report 2020 to 2021. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You should have all had copies of the receipts and expenditure. The precept in 2020 to 2021 was 57,520, and the total income was 78,262 and 27 pence. At the end of the year, I'd just like to highlight some 4 major items of expenditure which were not budgeted for. One was the neighbourhood plan consultant, Paul Weston, for extra unforeseen time that was needed. 2, the social club repairs were not covered by the insurance. We also had the revised valuation by Martin Diplock of the council properties, and extra works on the boundary of the allotments. The precept for 2021 to 22 is increased by 5% to the amount of £60,396. And the total forecast of the income for 21-22 is 71,758. And I also would like to thank the clerk, Sasha Haynes, and her assistant for their help with the finances during the year.
Okay, thank you, Joy. If we could move on to planning then, Crispin.
Yes, good evening. So the number of planning applications received this year was 72. and we had 47 full applications, 8 listed building consents, 8 tree applications, 2 changes of use, 3 outline applications, and 4 variations. And there's 1 application which we commented on, which is in Seaton Parish, but is very close to the Collyford boundary. So we try and deal with each application on its merits, although this is sometimes hampered due to the quality of the drawings presented. Some applications warrant a site visit by at least 4 councillors, which has at times been difficult over the last year due to the COVID restrictions on meetings. We hope our comments to EDDC planning are both helpful and objective. The Ceramtech site, which you touched on earlier, Andrew, the Ceramtech site has now had all the buildings demolished, and Developers Homes England have appointed Wayne Homes to undertake the construction of 72 homes, 14 of which will be affordables, plus 6 light industrial units. Well, that's the way the plans stand at the moment. We look forward to having constructive discussions with the developer and contractor over the coming months as the designs are finalised. And finally, due to the death of the Duke of Edinburgh, at the next meeting will be an unusual situation in that some planning application time periods where we are consulted will have passed. And although we've done all the right things, I suppose, in not having a meeting last Monday, it means that it looks like some applications will simply have no comments from the parish council because we will be out of time. But we'll see how that goes over the next week, and I'll keep the councillors informed. And finally, can I just thank Howard West for his valuable assistance when I'm putting together these summaries of the various applications. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Crispin. So we'll move on to amenities and Colin.
You're muted, Colin.
Okay, is that better?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, right. Annual report then for Colin Parish Council for the Amenities Committee, and I'm taking in almost 2 years because we didn't have an annual meeting last year. Through the past year, the council has been coping with the pandemic. The annual meeting in April 2020 was cancelled because of the lockdown. However, we have had 2 parish inspections with
I think he's gone, Mr. Councillor, Mr. Chairman.
Colin? Colin?
I think he's frozen.
He's frozen.
Yeah.
Oh dear. Well, I tell you what, whilst he's frozen, can we go on to Phil Bayliss? Is that all right, Phil?
Yeah, that's fine.
Could you give your report then?
Okay, yeah, I've got my report.
Okay,
Good evening, everyone. I'm here to talk this evening about the Parish Paths Partnership. I'm one of the 4 volunteer wardens, but for this short talk, I'm going to have half a dozen slides, which I'd like Ian to help me with. That's all right, is it, Ian?
Yep.
Okay, the Parish Paths Partnership, or P3, has existed now for 25 years. In Colleton, that translates to 4 volunteer footpath wardens, where we walk the footpaths, the bridleways and the unclassified roads to check that they're safe and unobstructed. Could I have the first slide, please? I don't know how this is going to work, but
you can on them.
Thank you. So this little booklet includes not only all the footpaths of the parish, but some of the associated history and geology of the landscapes. It can be bought at the little shop. But also Hugh Westacott has also published a list of walks around here on the Visit Colleton website. There's a large network of paths in the parish, including the long distance East Devon Way passing through. Many have enjoyed walking our footpaths during the winter, but they have become quite muddy with puddles around the gates. That's not a problem at the moment. We've been so dry, but we could do with some more gravel or something to get rid of this problem. As footpath wardens will often clear nettles or brambles around gates or stiles.
Can you talk? Yeah.
Any are you right? Any
sorry, are you still receiving? Are you still receiving me?
Oh,
Colin.
Phil Bayliss
Colin.
will be talking to us later on about his work. Yes.
Colin, sorry, can you
Have I
just
gone
hear?
on?
You went offline, so we've gone to Phil Bayliss. Can we come back to you in a minute?
Is that all right?
Yeah, sorry, carry on, Phil.
Okay, so sorry, Colin. So if there are any larger issues than just small obstructions around a gate or stile, we'll report to the parish clerk and he'll report to the Devon Pathways people, and this will be repaired fairly quickly. Could I have the next slide, please? This is an example of just some of the little difficulties, some of which we could anticipate. If you look on the bridge there, there's a strut there that has obviously been repaired in the past, and we'll report on this to say this really needs replacing. Could I have the next slide, please? Sometimes they're much more obvious. This is the cattle damage, I would imagine, at the Kissing Gate just up from Chantry Fields. Could I have the next slide, please? It's not unusual in woodlands, particularly this is taken in Heathane Woods, for one of the trees to fall down. This will be reported and it will soon be cleared, so the pathway is unobstructed. Could I have the next slide, please? As well as general repairs, improvements are being made all the time. For example, this is the road from Nunsford Dairy to Nunsford Bridge, and you can see how wet it is, but there has been a bid put in to improve this green lane. Can you have the next slide, please? Finally, this is just an excellent example of refurbishing our footpaths. Many of you will remember that the old twin sleeper bridge that was over this little stream which becomes a torrent during the winter, and a couple of times the sleeper bridge was just washed away. But this new bridge has been put in only about, well, within the last couple of months, and you'll see gravel either side, and that's filled in the dips that were muddy and wet. But also you'll spot in this picture the metal gates. These are slowly replacing the old stiles and kissing gates, the old timber ones that are falling into disrepair. So improvements are being made. So do continue to enjoy our lovely array of footpaths and in our parish. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Phil. Colin, can we go back to you now? We still can't hear you, Colin.
You're still muted, Colin. You're muted.
How's that?
Colin?
Yeah,
that's it. Yeah, that's it.
Right. Okay. I don't know how far I got before you lost me. I talked about the cemetery. Did you hear that?
No.
The fact that we've now got an extension on the cemetery, which has now been completed and put under the care of Halcyon. The cemetery itself is has been well maintained and looked after in a satisfactory manner. And then we move on to the management and care of the picnic area and the community woodland, which has been carried out also in a satisfactory manner, and both areas are well used by the public. The 3 children's play areas have all been inspected by an independent Royal Society for the Prevention of Accidents inspector in 2020 and 2021 and found to be satisfactory. Minor issues have been attended to by our handyman, and the sites continue to be well used. And as you know, John Rollins has now left us after 12 years of excellent service as handyman, for which the council is truly grateful. We have appointed John's replacement, Mr. Arthur Parsons, a local man, and the council wish Arthur well in his new post. Now, as we've just been hearing from Phil Bayliss, the footpaths of the parish have been monitored by our 3 wardens, and our thanks are due to them for keeping an eye on our rights of way and passing on reports when things need attention. The P3, or Parish Partnership Scheme, is working well with good liaison with the County Rights of Way team, and you will no doubt be aware that the long distance East Devon Way runs through the parish and receives special attention from the county when the repairs are needed. A planned scheme using P3 funds is underway, as Phil mentioned just now, to repair and drain the Nunsford Lane unclassified road and its link with the East Devon Way where it crosses the River Axe. The Parish Council is grateful to all those members of the public who have given voluntary help with such things as caring for our parish gardens. And a decision has been made to appoint a permanent gardener to care for these town gardens. And there is an appeal for any surplus plants to be donated for these gardens. The parish allotments are nearly up to capacity in their use. The roadside bank has been trimmed and work is proceeding with the planning.
Colin, you've gone again. Colin?
He can't hear you.
Can't hear you.
I think his internet's dropped out, Mr. Chair.
Okay, I'm afraid we're going to have to come back to him later on. We will move on the agenda then. Item 7 is guest speaker, which we don't have tonight this year. Item 8 is the Colleton Chamber of Fees report, which I'm, as chairman, going to make, so I'll do that now. Yeah, as with all organisations, it has been a very difficult year for the Chamber of Fees because of the coronavirus. For most of the last year, we've been unable to meet in person, so all our discussions and decisions have been done indirectly and at a distance. It is thanks to our bailiff, Sarah, that our business has been done so smoothly. The Town Hall and St John's Hall, which is also run by the Fees, have been closed for most of the year. This led to the cancelling of the Fees banquet in February, which was the first time this has happened. The only exception to the use of the Town Hall is on Thursdays, where food distribution is done by Save. There have been a lot of inquiries about booking the hall for events, and hopefully once the country is free from the present restrictions, these can be resumed. In the meantime, repairs and improvements have been done to the Town Hall and others are planned for St John's Hall. Finally, the Chamber have made grants of over £7,000 to organisations and individuals connected with Colleton during the last year. That is the Fees report. So if we could go on then, let's go on to item 9, the Reece Strawbridge. Paul.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry, I'm not on visual. I'm having the same trouble as Colin. I've got some dropout here. Like you, Chair, very little to report. The Reece Strawbridge Centre has been closed for most of the last civic year. And sadly, we haven't been, for example, many community activities that we would normally host, all sorts of exercise regimes and clubs and indoor sports. But in particular, it's been very sad that we haven't managed to have the cinema for the last year. We are hoping, we are planning a programme starting from September, if things go okay. So hopefully we'll welcome the wider community back. We're awaiting, as everybody else is, to hear what the next set of announcements will be for the lifting of further restrictions in May and perhaps beyond that. And on the corporate side of things, we are well into the process of transforming the charity from its quite elderly governing document into a charitable incorporated organisation, rather as the Fees did themselves a few years ago. So that's really all there is to report, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Paul. So let's move on to item 10, the Devon County Council report. Martin.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Well, this has been a year dominated for me, as for everyone, by the COVID crisis. Right at the beginning of this year, I joined the Devon Health Scrutiny Committee. I moved from another committee to the Health Scrutiny Committee, and at the first meeting I attended, which was just as the first lockdown was pending, we were presented with the Devon NHS plan, a plan which didn't mention the word pandemic because it had been written before the pandemic had happened, and it had failed to take into account the warnings which had been given about the risks of pandemics, as was the case of in many other parts of the country. So we've been playing catch up. We've been very lucky, I think, that the level of the pandemic has been generally so much lower here than in many other parts of the country. And so we as on the Health Scrutiny Committee have been monitoring the issues and the effects and trying to make suggestions where possible. The other area which this has affected, of course, has been the community hospital. It's been very pleasing to see Seaton Hospital so fully used with the vaccination centre in the last few months, and this, I think, has given a real lift to the prospects of the hospital. But it doesn't mean we're out of the woods, because if vaccinations are scaled down, then we'll be back to the situation where the hospital is only half full. In many other ways, it's been a year in which we've been carrying on with the same issues. We're making very slow progress, but in some cases we have made progress. So, for example, the stop line way, we have made progress in that we've finally got the compulsory purchase order issued for the section in the wetlands, but that's still subject to appeals by the landowners. On 20-mile-an-hour limits, which I was part of a working group which recommended that communities should be able to request 20 limits in the village and town centres. That was already delayed because they decided to have a trial. It's now been further delayed because of COVID delaying the trial. And it goes on really. Other issues like the Seaton Seafront Enhancement Scheme and the question of improvements on the A35. Also, really, we've been making slow but modest progress over the year. So I think that's probably as much as I want to say. If anyone wants to ask me questions, obviously I'm happy to answer.
Okay, thank you, Martin. Right, are there any questions?
Martin?
Yes.
The compulsory purchase orders going through, when might we be able to not walk on that road and bypass that part of the bypass that part which you're buying?
Well, I can't give you an exact date. I mean, the compulsory purchase order has been issued. The landowners have appealed. It will then, I think, go to a tribunal. And I was told at the beginning of the year when this first came out that if there were appeals, it would take most of the year to get through the process. So I think towards the end of the year, we might be in a position where we know where we are. But in any case, the county council has put the money for the purchase. The money for the purchase was in the 2020-21 budget and has been carried over into the 21-22 budget. The money for actually constructing the route and doing all the necessary improvements to the route is in this year's budget as well. So if they get it approved and get the appeal out of the way, then I would think it could be realistic to think it might start at the beginning of next year. That's probably something like the time scale. We shall see. All of these. This has been a very long saga for a long time before I became county councillor, but really it's something I've been dealing with on and off over the last 4 years. Emailing twice a month to say, is there any news, or why can't we get this moving on? And it's been a very slow process, but I think we are making some headway now.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Aidy.
Yes, just a quick one, Chairman. I think our thanks ought to go to Martin, obviously, for the work that he's done with the traffic group, and also obviously that Gollifford representatives may be aware of, that we've obviously replaced the netting on the Devon bank, which Devon County Council refused to have anything to do with. So thank you for that, Martin. It's obviously been very difficult with shortages of funds for highways improvement, but at least we've done what we could.
Okay, are there any other questions? No, okay, well, thank you, Martin. We'll move on.
Colin's back, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, Colin, are you back?
Yes, sorry, I'm back again. I don't know what's
Right,
happened to my machine. Really, a question to Martin. I have emailed him concerning the Lisham's Drain debacle. 4 years that's been, or 5 at least. And the traffic group have petitioned, our clerk has petitioned, and we have. And the last thing I heard was that the deadline for doing this work was the 20th of April. Do they mean this year or next year? Because that's tomorrow. And I just wondered if you have any information. It's an absolute horrendous position where there are bad potholes in that road with a spring underneath. Have you had any news from Mr. Kelly at all?
The short answer, I'm afraid, is no. I mean, I thought we had made some progress here, that at least we had got a proper investigation and a plan of action. But I don't know why it hasn't happened at this particular moment. I will check.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, are there any other questions? Right, okay, well, thank you, Martin. Colin, now, whilst you're on, would you like to finish your report?
I'm sorry.
You got to the cemetery, so if you could just...
Right, I'm so sorry about this, but it seemed to be a gremlin in my machine. Right, the cemetery, I told you that the extension was completed in 2020, and it's been reseeded with grass mixture and added to the halcyon contract. The area marked out for has been marked out for burial plots, but so far has not been used. And we can report that the care of the cemetery has been carried out in a satisfactory manner. And the management and care of the picnic area and the community woodland has been carried out also in a satisfactory manner, and both areas are being well used by the public. The 3 children's play areas in the parish have all been inspected by an independent Royal Society for the Prevention of Accidents inspector in 2020 and 2021 and found to be satisfactory. Minor issues have been attended to by our handyman, and the sites continue to be well used. As you all know, John Rollings has now left after 12 years of excellent service as our handyman, for which the council is truly grateful. We have appointed John's replacement, Mr. Arthur Parsons, a local man, and the council wish Arthur well in his new post. The footpaths of the parish have been monitored by our 3 wardens, and our thanks are due to them for keeping an eye on our rights of way and passing on reports when things need attention. And you will have heard Phil Bayliss talking to us and showing us the work of this warden group, and we are very grateful to them for their work. The P3, or Parish Partnership Scheme, is working well with good liaison with the county rights of way team. And you will no doubt be aware that the long distance East Devon Way runs through the parish and receives special attention from the county when repairs are needed. A planned scheme using the P3 funds is underway to repair and drain the Nunsford Lane unclassified road and its link with the East Devon Way where it crosses the River Axe. The Parish Council is grateful to all those members of the public who have given voluntary help with such things such as caring for our parish gardens. A decision has been made to appoint a permanent gardener to care for these town gardens, but there is still an appeal out for any surplus plants to be donated for these gardens. The parish allotments are nearly up to capacity in their use. The roadside bank has been trimmed and work is proceeding with planning of a piped water supply. Our thanks to Mr. Graham Pady for providing a tankered water supply to the allotments. It's hoped that with the relaxation of lockdown, the care of the parish amenities will go forward as usual. And this, ladies and gentlemen, completes my report. I hope you heard all of that.
Yeah, thank you, Colin.
Good, thank you. Thank you.
Right, so let's move on to item 11, which is the East Devon District Council. And Paul, would you like to give your report?
Yes, I'll come in, Chair. As you can imagine, I could talk for an hour, and I don't think you'll want that. And also, just to say, I have to be very careful what I say. We are in the pre-election period that used to be known as PERDA. So I don't want to say anything to knock any opposition or in any way seem to be puffing my own political entity. So if there's been a governing theme this year, I think it's been about simply about the determination to try and enable members and local people to have a greater say in everything. So how was that demonstrated? Well, first of all, quite quickly within the new civic year, we withdrew from the Greater Exeter Strategic Plan, which had shown a propensity to lose control of what was going on with larger developments in our area. And we have instead accelerated our own local plan. And you'll have seen all the various consultations that have gone out on that recently as well. In areas such as Exmouth Seafront, we have got the committees overseeing that gingered up again, and there's much more participation, and I think that seems to be going hopefully in the right direction. We set up a committee to oversee LED, and that was really in the nick of time. That was before we knew the effect of COVID. And the effect of COVID financially has been very serious. We've still got a hole of well over £1 million and rising in our own budget, because unfortunately we haven't had funds replenished from central government as other councils who have their leisure providers in-house have. We've tried to make the S106 process more understandable and more efficient, and we had a very efficient audit on that showed a few problems. We're appointing a new officer, so I would hope that some of those worries that people have had over many years about S106 are alleviated. We've looked very closely at the council's own assets, and this is a work in progress, both to make sure that we are maximising their value and indeed that we understand where they are, but also as part of the drive to try and see if we can construct our own social or affordable homes on land that's already owned by East Devon. So that's moving ahead. We're in the process of appointing a mental health officer to deal with the mental health issues of both members and officers. We have backed major environmental drives in, for example, the Lower Otter Valley, Clyst Valley Park, and of course the ongoing work in Seaton Wetlands, which locally I know we're extremely proud. We have, sorry, this is a slightly strange order to go in this. We've managed the danger of a deficit in this financial year. There won't be one, and we're going to be okay next year as well. But in the medium and long term, we're going to have to take a very serious look at things, particularly if we can't get this money reimbursed for LED. So watch this space on that. As far as the more optimistic side is concerned, I had a meeting last week with our two district MPs. Somebody's got their mic open, so I'm beautifully echoing. You don't want to hear me twice. So with Mr. Jupp and Mr. Parish to talk about how it might be possible to take what's called the government's levelling up fund, which is a dedicated amount of £20 million per constituency. And that's slightly more complicated for us over on this side of the East Devon district because of course Neil has Mid Devon and East Devon. So we're going to have to think, and he will, I'm sure, think very hard and very positively about how to divide his attentions there. But I'd be hopeful maybe we can around here maybe possibly get some help for Seaton Seafront. But again, that's very early days. We've clearly, as everybody has said, you know, I have, as you know, been leader of the council since the end of May last year, and I haven't met anybody at all. So if you could imagine the complications we've had at Parish and at the fees, etc., that's been my every day of my, certainly every working day of my life for the last year. And it has been tricky, and it has caused all sorts of stresses. And it's meant also, or the pandemic has also meant that a huge amount of our officer time has been dedicated to managing the council through the pandemic response itself. But we've also had to take on these and gladly take on these responsibilities to distribute local business grants of various kinds, which has been incredibly time consuming over most of the last year. And I think that's been done pretty well. So now that we can see the end of that, hopefully coming, we are beginning what I hope will be an extremely engaging process to develop the new council plan. And we begin the all-member workshops on that tomorrow night, and we'll have 4 of those, which will be very carefully mediated. And so I'm hoping that that'll be an opportunity for members of all backgrounds to have a full say. And I did have a point here, Chair, that says finally, but I simply can't read my handwriting. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Paul. Are there any questions before we move on? No, okay. Helen, would you like to give your report?
Thank you. Yes. Right, so the District Council had a new administration that came in May, which was the Democratic Alliance. And this year has been dominated by work connected to the coronavirus pandemic. Particularly, the District Council set up the Community Support Hub, which was to help residents who needed. The District Council has paid out more than £62 million in government grants to local businesses over the last 12 months. And thousands of businesses have benefited from the various schemes. And the council staff have been working absolutely ceaselessly to process these grants as quickly as they can. And they've done a huge amount of work because each scheme has to be done under special guidance. They've had to set up the schemes. They've also had grants for residents to £80,000 in the last 3 months of 2020 alone, helping residents who've had to isolate through test and trace. Then they've, the budget, yes, we've raised the council tax £5 for the average Band D property, and we can take £7p from every pound you pay in council tax goes to the district council. And obviously a huge vote of thanks goes to the treasurer for his work in coming up with a balanced budget in these very difficult circumstances. Paul has mentioned that the new administration decided to take the district council out of the Greater Exeter strategic plan, and they've started to revise the East Devon local plan, and the first consultation has just ended. In the last 3 years, the district council met its government house building requirement. It delivered 2,868 new homes, and in the period of 2019-2020, 320 of the homes built were affordable homes, which is a good total. That's one of our highest priorities, to provide affordable homes. Staff morale, a very serious concern about long-term absence of a senior officer led to a report coming to scrutiny on staff morale. There's been a serious increase in absence from, as reported in the last staff survey compared to the previous one. And this is particularly concerning, as East Devon has traditionally been an organisation where staff morale is very high. And in 2019, it got an excellent LGA peer review saying that there was high quality services and a hardworking and committed workforce. Then in February 20, the council was awarded the Platinum Level Investors in People Award, which showed it to be an excellent employer. It had previously had the Gold Award, which was for the last 7 years. That was the previous highest status. So councillors were shocked to hear that there are problems, and there seems to be bullying reported and harassment, micromanaging, and obviously a breakdown between councillors and employees could cause the council to become dysfunctional. The chief executive has warned councillors that their reputation as a good employer is at risk, and possible legal liabilities over employment-based claims might arise. And he's going to do further work, carry out another survey, and then come back with his next report. During the year, the Community Buildings Fund has given out thousands of pounds, up to 5,000 for each grant application, to village halls, and Collie Ford was awarded 4,600 odd pounds to replace or help replace the floor, which is beyond further repair. And finally, the district council is lobbying the government to allow council meetings to continue remotely beyond the 6th of May. And obviously I know that's a concern to you at Colleton Parish Council. Hopefully there will be further guidance soon, because otherwise, if the district council has to hold meetings in person, the number of people that will be able to attend will be very limited because of having to adhere to social distancing requirements. So we look forward to hearing what's going to happen on that front. Thank you, Jem.
Okay, thank you, Helen. Are there any questions? Okay, right, so let's move on to item 12, which is questions from members of the public. Who would like to go first? Have we got no questions from members of the public? Oh, yeah, Howard. Howard, you're muted.
That better?
Yep, that's it. Well done.
Can I say something as a member of the public? I am also concerned, and Crispin did mention it in his speech, that at the current time we do have, I think, about 9 or 10 planning applications, many of which will run out of our comment period during this week. And already one decision has been made on one application where we haven't had the chance to comment, I do understand about the sad loss of the Duke of Edinburgh, but I think even he would not want this to happen where the parish council is now really almost unable to make comments on various planning applications. And at the current time, there are one or two very important applications that we may not have our comments considered. So I'm very concerned on that part of the situation at the moment. And that is talking as a member of the public.
Okay, thank you, Howard. Is there anybody else from the member of the public want to speak? Okay, right. Well, thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. That is the end of our agenda. So I will now close the meeting.